It's v.h.s.x. What do you mean?
Alright everybody, welcome back. We got another forum video. This time it's on Reddit and it was suggested by one of you guys. So shout out to Sinoval in the Discord community for suggesting this Reddit post. Now this one's titled "Horrible Macro Play is Why Solo Queue Feels Terrible." And it reads, "After thinking about it for a while, I think I finally figured out why no matter what you do, solo queue is miserable. It's because a lot of survivors fail at basic macro gameplay and it screws the whole team over. Got a busted 3-gen setup, you'll be sure to at least one solo teammate will do literally every corner gen while you get chased. Killer has surge and everybody knows the survivor will chase nearby someone working on a gen despite knowing this and will get down and blow up the gen. Got a Nia that wants to go for a flashlight saves but fumbles each time and wastes time that could have been on a gen. And then oof. Solo queue players sometimes even crouch around doing nothing as they are too scared of the killer's hair radius. They have a situation where two people are doing nothing. And only one person is doing a gen, the other is being chased. It is not really about the lack of tips or tools anymore. I am genuinely starting to think that the main issue of Dead by Daylight is the game never teaches you how to consider the macro." Which I'm not sure if there's more. This kind of gets cut off there. I'm not sure why. But anyway, I have to agree. A lot of the things that really make solo queue annoying and difficult, and this is something I've talked about plenty of times, is the mere fact that you're literally playing in an uncoordinated team. So of course it's going to be difficult. And people in this community like to use this as some kind of like talking point, like, oh, but solo queue. And it's like, but solo, because you choose to not play in a team does not speak for everybody's experience and does not speak for the balance of the game. The killer is not magically overpowered because you decided to choose the path of least resistance in that sense and made it harder for yourself to play the goddamn game. That has nothing to do with the balancing. That has nothing to do with the development team. That has everything to do with how you choose to play the game. So if you decide to not have friends and decide not to have anyone to join in and play matches, then that's going to be your fault at the end of the day, because that's how it's going to work. It's a team-based game. So of course you have to work with whoever is there. And if they refuse to work with you, then you have to kind of assume that it's going to work out that way. That's just how it works. Now, in general, a lot of people who play this game are not very good at this game. So that is also another aspect of the experience that comes into play. But at the end of the day, it's still a choice to make when you decide to actually play without any help. So this person says, "I'm convinced most DVD players don't even understand the concept of macro gameplay. Like, people get mad at me for not healing them directly under the hook when we can spend 5 extra seconds just moving closer to a pallet or window." Which is very true. Literally, that's by definition extremely true. I mean, so like, we've even seen a good example was a while back, if you've been keeping up, there was a Mr. Headache video I covered that he ran that test. He decided to go through that experience, play Survivor, play solo, and kind of see what it's all about. And that's what he experienced. He went through each one and a list, and he basically talked about the mere fact that a lot of these Survivor players have no macro understanding, get salty that the killer is coming back to the hook when it's like you're standing there injured under a hook where he was just at a second ago. Duh, like, you're going to get chased down. Like, what do you think is going to happen? This person says, "Also, why will they call a lot of killers like Knight and Skull Merchant unskillful, as they lack much mechanical depth, but their actual gameplay is all about macro management?" Now, obviously, Skull Merchant has way less of that nowadays, because, I mean, her power is quite literally just like a fancy little decoration at this point. Because, at least in my perspective, having even tried the character, like, after the slight buff that she got, it really didn't make a goddamn difference. She's still garbage. She's still just an M1 with a fancy little decorative power that does nothing. Now, maybe if you main Skull Merchant, you can get those drone rotations down. Hey, you know, more power to you. I just don't think it's something I want to learn, so that's why I'm not going to waste my time. However, I can't say confidently she has a lot of macro to work with because she moves very slow as well. This person says, I think it comes with game sense. Sometimes as it's Hook Survivor, you know the kills on the other side of the map, chase someone else, you know the heal is safe. Other time you clearly know he's about to come back, and healing a bit further away is unsafe, so you should just get farther away. Now, here's the other caveat, I guess, to why the heal under hooks in the first place, is because of the buffs to all the healing perks. You can get away with healing under hooks at this point. You can also stack on Resurgence with, Will Make It, for example, or the other healing perk combinations. Botany Knowledge, you can slap that on there with, like, Desperate Measures or a med kit or this or that. There's so many options to heal anyway. So it makes sense that they literally do not even need to use the brain power to even decide to heal somewhere safe, because they have the healing speeds are so ridiculous that they don't even need to even do that anymore. Which goes to show, like, they're dumbing down the game so heavily, like, that even the most basic of basic, they just can't seem to understand it, which doesn't make any goddamn sense. But it is what it is. This verse says most survivors are not thinking about which gens are completing, giving killers an easy 3 gens to defend. Then they don't understand that they just need to pre-run out of the 3 gens and play really slow. Most survivors understand the hooks are just like time tokens you need to use in order to make killers lose time, which is something else that I've also talked about many times. That's why slugging has gotten so prevalent, because the hooks themselves take up time. Then the effects that they receive for the killer hooking you is also insane. So, like, that right there, that one sentence boils down the entire reason why slugging's gone up in terms of how frequent it's become. Because having to hook already takes up on average 10 to 20 seconds, right? Then after unhooking, you gain multiple perks that can then waste even more time or provide insane value. So, like, deliverance, meaning that no one has to save you, you can just hop off the hook yourself, and that already leaves more people to get on gens, right? Or you have that other perk, I forget what it was called, it's that Steve perk that heals you off of hooks as well. That's another bit of time saved. Or you can even talk about the Desperate Measures that I think also helps you unhook faster. I can't remember correctly. Leader does the same thing, makes you unhook faster. And other perks like that are saving time by just hooking in the first place, right? Like by you getting hooked, you're saving time later, which is insanity. Because then it's like, okay, so as a killer player, I'm gonna have to just not do that so I don't give them bonuses. But anyway, they say if someone is death hooked and you haven't been hooked, you better do your best to take chases, not hide, which is also a good point. They say most survivors understand that survivor unhook is safe and cannot be killed instantly. If you know the killer is tunneling, unhook as late as possible so the killer cannot kill your mate instantly, which is another valid point. And mind you, they already buffed up the timers on the hook. They buffed up the endurance and haste off of hook. So you already have additional hand-holding options that add on to those plays. And that's why when you are an experienced killer player, we're not talking about Survivor main who logs on the killer for his challenges every once in a while. We're talking about the dedicated killer player who loves to play killer, only plays killer like for a lot of hours, or at least more hours than Survivor in the sense, because then you'll have more information about that than trying to play it strictly evenly, because you won't have enough hours on either side to be able to accurately discuss this. But either way, now obviously there are some outliers. You're probably going to find strong survivors even without having the most dedicated amount of hours into killer. But just for the sake of example, if you are going against experienced survivor players, you would understand completely how these things can be used in a way. If you're only a casual player and you're only seeing casual play and you're only experiencing casual play, then that's your experience, but that doesn't apply to everybody. So when people are talking about something like this, they're referring to what is being able to do, basically your capability of being able to use these things effectively. We're not talking about the Timmy No Thumbs who doesn't know what the hell they're doing. We're talking about these bonuses being so strong on people who have experience and can use these things to its effective rate. But anyway, let's continue. So they say if every survivor would just understand those things, survival rate would be at 75%. Drive me crazy because those things are really logic and easy to understand, yet most survivors have no idea what they're doing, which is 100% true. Which is 100% true. There's a lot of survivor players that have literally zero idea what the hell they're doing. And mind you, they use this logic to try to then apply it to killer and say, oh, but killer's overpowered then. It's like, because they're getting kills. It's like, no, there's a skill issue here. And it's really interesting because anytime there's any balancing discussion, you even seen this recently. With that recent survivor that had made a video trying to say that the killer is hard is some kind of like propaganda or some kind of random rhetoric or some kind of like nonsense. And it's like, no. And notice that even within those discussions, you never hear MMR get discussed, experience level get discussed. They disregard any sort of facts and logic when it comes down to even applying logic to their own evidence. By trying to claim that, say, oh, but killers get streaks that are like in the thousands, it's like, that's inaccurate. It was one person using one character. With this particular person was a comp player, right? Momo7, right? Comp player, thousands of hours ahead of everybody else. Thousands of hours ahead of us, using the strongest killer in the game at the time. So what did you think was going to happen? They have experience and they're going against what? Survivor players that on average don't know what the hell they're doing. So of course they're going to goddamn lose. Now it's like, oh, but that means the killer. No, it doesn't. One single person doing one thing, one streak is not enough to describe the entire side. Because if that were true, why don't we see more people putting out streaks? Why don't we see more people talking about that? Because if it was so commonplace, then it wouldn't even be remotely impressive or even be a discussion if streaks are this common. So it's like it falls apart the second you put any thought to it. It doesn't make any sense. So they say, let's see, macro is way more important on Survivor than micro. The biggest mistake that happens in a lot of matches as survivors are just not doing gens, which is true. When you're starting out with Survivor, I can even say from my own experience, when I played Survivor for challenges and things, that's what I see, because the HUD will tell you who's on a gen. Which is another thing that survivors love to somehow ignore. I've seen plenty of times where people just ignore the fact that they have a HUD that gives you all the information you could possibly need to win the match at that point. You have free information. It doesn't need to be activated. It's always active at all times. You can see the goddamn HUD. And it makes no sense. You should know who the hell's on the gen. And from there, you just use a little goddamn brain power and go, if I'm on this gen, and that other person's being chased probably over there, I did see him pass by, that means that they're probably going to be on the far right hand side, so maybe they're finishing those gens that could potentially be two different ones, But no, they don't want to use brain power when they play the bar filler simulator. Like, why would they? But they say they can't use the HUD for their advantage. Two people go for the unhook despite the person on the hook having kindred. They will loop and die around a hook in 3-gen. They'll go for the unhook too quickly. They'll hide in bushes for no reason. They'll cleanse dull totems. Exactly. It's true. They do a lot of dumb stuff. So some people, will say, oh, but inner strength or blah, blah, blah. But regardless, like, there's still people that don't have those perks equipped and are still doing that. This person says it's not just a solo queue problem. It's a player skill level issue. I played versus plenty of Swifts that have horrible macros. Also been sold many times when playing solo queue, and the 2 to 3 stack Swift are doing their best to not break the 3-gen, or all sticking together and are swarming the killer for saves. Just because people play together doesn't mean they're competent, which is also a good point. I do not disagree with that. But the thing is that when people are going against Swifts, 9 times out of 10, if they're trying to win, it's going to be a hard time. You're not going to have any fun. Now, are there Swifts that just are bad at the game? Yes, that is also a thing. That also does happen. But keeping in mind that not only is, I believe, solo queue and 4-man Swifts, I think, have the same percentage. Last time we checked, because obviously behavior is very hesitant to drop data. But the last time that we did get any information and data, it actually had higher percentages of Swift compared to solo queue. But they love to say that solo queue is the most amount of players. Nope, not true at all. According to Behavior's actual data that they released. Now, obviously, it's a bit dated now, but that's the best we have at the moment. It's better than saying, "Oh, just because I said so." I'll have to say, that's what they usually use. So this person says, "Thank you. I always say this when bringing up solo queue issues, but people don't like hearing it. Base kit buffs won't compensate for a lack of game sense. New perks won't make up for macro. 4 good solo queue players are scarier than most Swifts because they know what to do and where to do it. So many DVD survivors treat this as a fashion show to show off the survivor when you need a lot of macro to play this game. More of it is needed on the killer side, but if you continuously make the wrong plays, you will lose to a good player, mostly." Now, I do agree with that. I do agree with that because if we look at the same video that I'm referring to, and we look at the data that was provided by Behavior, we notice that even in Japan, the amount of escape rate, I think, for Swift and solo queue was, I think, around 46%, which was higher than the US, if I'm not mistaken, or at least North America, if I'm not mistaken. And it was equal for both Swift and solo queue, meaning that in Japan they were having a higher escape rate compared to the whole, player base in all the countries. So the fact that Japan can get away with escaping at the same rate as literally 4-man Swifts, coordinated Swifts, that only further proves that this is true. That these base kit buffs are not going to compensate for anything. They won't make up for poor macro if you use perks, all this kind of nonsense. At the end of the day, it's a skill issue. So this person says the issue is that the minority takes this game way too seriously and the majority bad survivor mains are just playing for fun. And then they got downvoted, and then the person says you don't have to take the game seriously to be good at it. I play this game for fun, but I'm actually good. It's not hard to pick up on small things like that. DVD players are just bad. Then they say fully agreed. I think people here overestimate how casual and disinterested the average player is. They did get downvoted, but they kind of make a good point. But I also have to agree with this person here, Unsalted, because I do not play Survivor much, but I have had hours on Survivor, about 400 according to DVD's stat tracker, and I can still hold my own compared to these bozos that play Survivor every single goddamn day for multiple hours a day, and they don't do anything else with their lives, and yet I loot better than them, which makes no sense because I'm like, you have way more hours than me, than even on the game, and more experience on Survivor, and yet you're still ass. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So like, that just is crazy. Like, I've said this so many times. Like, how do you sit there and just play something or do something multiple times and never improve? I can never understand it. Because the more you do something, you just inevitably get better at that thing. It's just how it works. Whether you're conscious of it or not, you're going to inevitably get a little bit better every time. Just doesn't make any sense. This person says that 90% of teammates you see in solo queue don't even know what macro means. Which is, yeah, that's a good point. This person says, if you sink at looping, the easy thing to do is stick on bond and run away from the killer or anyone on gens. Ideally toward edge map, stuff like that, time management, and people grouping up is a big mistake, which is, yeah, these are accurate. And there we go. Look, Taterhead mentioned. We love Taterhead on this channel. You guys already know. And they say, been watching Taterhead actually learning how to loop. Took a spring trap on a legit under 2-minute chase with the help of a timely syringe. Went back and watched the replay. No one on a gen until a minute 30 into the chase. And then this person says, Taterhead is such a great guy. Generally excited when he shows us that new surprise tool that can help us in loops, and his videos deserve a lot of more attention. I 100% agree with that. We love Taterhead on this channel. Absolutely. I constantly talk about Taterhead when it comes to looping on this game. Like crazy. Because that's who I learned from when I was starting out. And that's probably why I still maintain my level of knowledge on looping. I may not be like perfect. I can't like, I may like mistime something, or like mistime my mind game or whatever have you. But at the end of the day, I can still hold my own in comparison to like the bottom tier garbage trash that you see in solo queue. It's like, get better. Like, you know what I mean? This person says maybe a hot take, but I think DBD is only balanced because survivors have a lot of strong perks, items, and add-ons, which people who aren't good at the game need to have a chance to win. When actually good survivors run this wrong, so the game is survivor-sided even without communication. I mean, yeah, because it already is survivor-sided. Like, it's already been evidently proven from patch notes, from the gameplay, from people's, like, you know, just describing their experience playing the game. Like, we just have all these things that are being shown to us and being proven to us time and time and time again, despite the fact that you'll have the killer larpers that want to come along and try to pretend and say, oh, my fellow killer mates. Like, buddy, stop it. Like, we see right through you. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. So regardless, they say imagine over Overwatch, Val, League, etc. had no chat, no VC, no comm wheel, yet you're still expected to somehow coordinate plays. It says you basically have to always play with someone else or not really playing the game, which is not entirely accurate. I mean, people, honestly, like, you don't really need to do that. Now, obviously, it boils down to skill. Like, if you're working with different players, you kind of want to understand what their goal is and try to work around that. A good example I can use is for Marvel Rivals, for example. Like, let's say, for example, my teammate is playing Groot, and for whatever reason he ults, and I happen to be Moon Knight or something, and I happen to have my charge, and I hear I am Groot, and he's pulling him in. The first thing I'm going to be trying to think about is, wait, I have mine. Let me drop the moon on him, and the moon, and then it could just, because they're still stuck there, I could drop the moon on them. They're probably all going to get wiped. Chances are, if I, like, you know what I mean? And that requires what? Paying attention and listening to what the heck is going on. And it's not even because somebody called it out or somebody had mentioned, like, oh, I'm playing Groot, so I'm going to ult now, guys. Like, I'm just hearing Groot himself yell out, I am Groot, or whatever and I go, okay, cool, now's my time. Or, for example, because I'm like on Rivals, I main Emma, right? So if I have somebody on my team like Wanda, or I mean, even Punisher, you could say, like anybody with a big ult that can deal damage, like in a really quick way, like a DPS of some kind with a big ult, chances are they can use that because my ult's already gonna mind control and pull them toward me. So that already allows for Wanda, or even Punisher, or whoever you could think of that could like do a lot of damage, can blow them up. And you guys who have been keeping up with the Rivals channel have probably seen that, or if you haven't already, on the videos. So these things are things that can happen, let alone the fact that DBD specifically has a HUD. Like, you can use your goddamn eyeballs and look at the goddamn screen. Because a lot of these Survivor players like to look at the sky or something and pick their nose, and it's like, bro, look at the goddamn HUD. You should be able to know what the hell's going on. But anyway, this person says, that's not even remotely true. I don't need comms to tell me not to loop around a hook. I don't need comms to tell me if they know where a gen is being done or I hear it being done. I should take my chase elsewhere. I don't need comms to tell me healing under hook is generally a bad idea. I don't need comms to tell me if a killer picks up a survivor close to a hook. I alone shouldn't take a body block because it's far from enough to break them out. Majority of the plays you make, you don't need comms for. Exactly. And then this person also says you don't need comms. Doesn't mean the run-of-the-mill DBD subreddit user has the same game sense. And having comms allows to guide that Boza to make better plays, which is not entirely true. Because it's trying to say, like, oh, but you don't need it. It's like, okay, but if you have eyes and ears and you're paying a goddamn attention to the game, pay attention. Like, you know what I'm saying? It makes no sense. And keep in mind as well, you can see your teammates' perks now. So, like, let's be so for real. Let's be so for real, bro. So I agree with Unsalted here. They say if you need comms to make efficient plays, that is a skill issue on your part. Sure, you won't be perfect every game, but there's certain things you should have learned once you played the game enough that the average Survivor Swift or not still hasn't learned. The fact is that the average Survivor skill level is so low, they get carried by perks, maps, and basic things so much that if you take one of them away, they will crumble. Playing Chaos Shuffle really shows this. A lot of survivors refuse to learn anything and want the game to compensate for it. It's 100% accurate. It's 100% true. I mean, I don't see like anything wrong with that. That is 100% accurate. And I'm saying this as somebody who plays on Rivals, and I don't even go in with comps, and I'm usually able to well, cons with my team at least. I usually have like a friend of mine. We usually play in a duo. But that's like 2 out of like how many? Like 6. So like, you know, we still have to coordinate around our own play. And sometimes we'll have to type in the chat or whatever have you. But at the end of the day, this kind of stuff is still learned from experience. This person also makes a good point. It says the worst part is most of these players will never learn what they're doing is wrong. Hooking right in front of the killer, they come back. Oh, they're just a sweaty tunneler. Getting 3-gen? No, they could have done. Probably don't even realize what a 3-gen is. It's partly isn't their fault. DBD is a deceptively complicated game. It takes a long time to learn, but some things that would seem like common sense also got out the window. Behavior balances based on these players. Be more than all the skill expression being removed. Which is very true. This ties into just like the mere fact that skill expression just isn't a thing anymore in this game. And that's why I talked about in another video that learning to play killer really means nothing. Because they handhold survivor based around the lowest common denominator survivor players that have no idea what the fuck they're doing. And then of course it shoots the killers in the foot, because then they get basically shit on by something that's out of their control that they cannot counter. Like as a killer player, you're not countering 15 seconds of endurance. Like either you hit them and give them a speed boost, or you don't hit them and they still get a speed boost. It's not like you're getting anything. You're not stopping anything. You know what I mean? Like you're not hitting faster against endurance. You're still hitting for the full hit cooldown and slowing down. You're not gaining anything. So at the end of the day, it's like, what is the point? And that's just mainly what I'm getting at. I'm glad that there's still people out there that see the truth for what this game is. At the end of the day, if you're interested in trying to improve at something, and this is why I've really deeply enjoyed playing Rivals, because it's like all my knowledge that I'm applying to my character, I actually see the results. Like I actually can see the impact my knowledge and understanding of the game and my characters actually come into fruition, because you can win games off of what I'm doing. Because I'm good at my tanks, therefore we can move forward, therefore we can get plays, therefore we can get picks, therefore we can do these things, therefore they can survive longer. If I wasn't a bad tank, they would all get wiped. If I wasn't if I didn't like perfectly time my shield against a Magneto when I'm playing Emma, like basically parrying his Magneto ball, then they would have probably died. They probably would have got like a 3-piece and they would have lost the game, for example, right? Or if I'm playing like once again with Emma, like I like Doctor Strange is trying to fly in, yelling out the Eye of Agamotto, and I'm jumping in the air and I choke slam him, preventing him from being able to ult. That's a game-winning play. Like a game like that where I can sit there and say, you know, my ult's doing an impact, my ult's doing something, my play is doing something, me flanking is doing this, me going after their healer does something, me doing this correctly and surviving gives me something. Versus a game like this where it's like you put in the effort and the hours and the knowledge and the experience, and then it's like, oh, but your character's dog shit, so oh well, guess you could just go F yourself. Yay! And that's what it is. Is if you're not being a master at the strongest character in the game, you're not going to see like the same level of results. And that's why in itself, like looking at Momo7's streak is so impressive, because it's like you have the hours on the strongest character, which in itself also proves that the imbalance of this game, that only the strongest character in the game can't even come close to streaking at this point. And even to get to that number is insane. It just goes to show even further how bad this game is balanced, because there's no killers that even come close to that strength level. And even with the same amount of hours, whether it be on Ghostface or Skull Merchant or Trapper or whatever, I cannot reach that same exact streak. Not saying that you need to be, not saying that it has to be that way, but what I'm saying is that you're pulling teeth on Ghostface, for example, but Blight you can get away with maybe going off a little bit over here for a second and maybe going a little extra here on the chase, because you can save time later. But that's not something that every character can do. That's the problem. But I want to hear what you guys think in the comments section, man. Consider checking out the Rivals channel. Consider also becoming a member on YouTube or Patreon for access to exclusive content and perks. And I will see you guys in the next one. All right, let's go ahead and read off these wonderful members. We got Patreon, Crow Vader. All my YouTube members, Brando, Evil Blade, Cap Courteous, WTF You're Not J-Lo, Evil Peach, Hargan Falcon, Dole Whip, Noxus, Zero Mocker, Jack, Christian, and Crow Vader. Really appreciate you guys supporting, man. And if you also subbed on Twitch, just know that you got love coming your way too. Appreciate you guys, man.